People who are trained in the medical profession, like doctors or nurses, are trained to help people, not hurt them.
She had killed one of our hometown heroes.
When you have a .38 gun and you have hatred for somebody, bad things are going to happen.
She named her right before she died as the person who had shot her. She is referred to as the most hated woman in America.
Corpus Christi is a laid-back community. We're on the seaside, and it's a lot of water activities, water sports and everything. It's kind of got a small-town vibe to it. My name is Mark Skirka. At that time, I was called a chief prosecutor for the Nueces County District Attorney's Office. That afternoon, I was working at the district attorney's office when I heard there was a standoff at the Days Inn where somebody had been shot. I also heard that the suspect had been holding a gun against her head for several hours with the police and refusing to surrender.
The Friday afternoon it happened, I was contacted by my supervisor and dispatched to the scene of the shooting. My name is Ray Rivera Jr. I was a Corpus Christi police officer for 30 years. We lost a great person. She had killed one of our hometown heroes.
Selena Quintanilla was born on April the 16th, 1971. She was one of 3 siblings. I'm Dr. Joni Johnston, clinical and forensic psychologist and private investigator. She had a pretty musical family. Her dad had a restaurant for a period of time, but he noticed early on that his youngest daughter, Selena, had just this magical voice, and she began performing in the restaurant when she was 6 years old.
At the time, her dad had his own band, and then he basically made a band out of his own family. His son became the guitar player, his daughter became the drummer, and Selena became the singer.
As time went on, Selena was becoming more popular, not just here locally, but around the state. And then we started to learn she was just really popular nationwide.
She was incredibly famous during her reign. My name is Rod Demery, and I'm a retired homicide detective. She was a Latina singer, and people were wildly crazy about her music. I think her sort of a hybrid, you know, from American music to Latin music was really interesting. She had fans of all sorts, but particularly in the Latino community.
She became really the queen of Tejano music. And this was a form of music that was very, very popular in Mexican-American community, particularly in southern Texas, but it wasn't something that was necessarily widespread in the United States. And so it was so wonderful, I think, for her community to feel like this is somebody who is an up-and-coming star. She's representing us, and she's representing our culture, and she's representing our music.
Selena was a superstar in her fans' eyes. Selena had a God-given ability to sing and to bring entertainment to people from all walks of life.
She had such a sparkle about her, and her voice was so gifted.
She was a fantastic individual, a great young woman. Whoever met her liked her. She had a smile and a kind word for everybody. And that everybody just loved her. They thought the world of her. Boy, we could use more Selenas in this world.
Selena loved entertaining the public, loved singing, loved being on stage, but she had another secret passion. She loved to do fashion design. Most of her costumes were self-designed by her. She didn't have these highfalutin fashion designers following around. She came up with these ideas on her own and wanted to branch out into that field. Selena opened 2 boutiques, one in Corpus Christi, one in San Antonio. They sewed clothing, they gave hairdressing appointments, they did nails, they did all kinds of things for women. But Selena also had a sideline where she was trying to start a clothing line down in Mexico, and she worked with a fashion designer from there to help bring that clothing line into existence. Well, things were sailing along pretty well with the businesses, and Selena's career was just increasing and increasing. And Selena's dad started hearing things. He heard things like people were not getting the stuff they were supposed to get from the fan club. Essentially, like you sent in your money and you were supposed to get like a signed picture from Selena or some membership card. He was getting complaints that people were not receiving what they'd been promised. He was very concerned about this because as he knew that if you get mad at the fan club, that may make you mad at Selena. He realized something was up and something didn't smell right.
We'll never know exactly what happened in that room, but Selena decides to leave. She gets up and she's walking to the door.
As Selena was walking out the door, she was shot in the back.
After being shot, Selena ran from the hotel room. She ran across a grassy area toward the office. She dropped her cell phone. She dropped the briefcase full of folders in her haste to get away. As she's rounding the pool area, she drops her purse. Selena is running away with a gunshot wound to her back. She gets into the office where she collapses on the floor.
Since the bullet hit an artery, she bled out very, very quickly.
One of the front desk clerks come over and said, "Who shot you? Who shot you?" And Selena, with her dying breath, tells her, "Yolanda, room 158.
Yolanda Saldivar was from San Antonio, born and raised in San Antonio, came from a large family.
She was the youngest of 7 siblings. She was also very small and a little bit on the heavier side. And we all know how painful that can be when you stand out in any way in school. So she was subjected to quite a bit of bullying growing up. And she also, I think, was somewhat of a loner. She was very smart. She did well in school, academically, but I think socially she was pretty isolated. I think her family was pretty close-knit. They loved each other, but there were a lot of financial struggles. Even though Yolanda was young, and it would have been very difficult financially for her, she actually took in those 3 children and really considered them her own. And I think that really added just a huge responsibility to her, and probably a lot of stress as well, because she's trying to figure out her own career, her own life, and at the same time, she's this kind of instant mom to 3 young children. After this happened, Yolanda decided that she wanted to become a nurse.
Most people that get into nursing, healthcare, is because they genuinely feel the need to care for people. Nurses in particular. That's pretty evident in Yolanda.
She spent several years balancing nursing school with taking care of her 3 charges. At the age of 30, she completes her nursing degree and she begins working as a nurse, and that seems to be going well for a while. But I think there was a part of Yolanda that really wanted to have more fun. One of the things that Yolanda really clung to, no matter how tight finances were, is she seemed to really, really love live music. It was through this that she ended up attending a Selena concert. She just is enamored with her and wants to be a part of her life in some way.
After one of the concerts one time, Selena's dad, Abraham Quintanilla, was approached by Yolanda Saldivar and asked if she could start a Selena fan club. At the time, Selena's dad thought, great. I mean, this is a way to get my daughter more exposure, the band more exposure, get her name out there and stuff. So he readily agreed to let Yolanda Saldivar start a fan club for Selena.
I certainly think that knowing that Yolanda had been a nurse would have been something that would be reassuring. You would kind of be like, yeah, this is a person who is responsible, who's self-disciplined, who's a nurturer, and who is trustworthy, because these are all the qualities we tend to imbue in nurses.
I believe Yolanda wanted to start a fan club for Selena because it put her, Yolanda, in the spotlight. People would be around, people would like her, people would want to talk to her. She liked the publicity, the limelight, the glamour.
The relationship was actually a business relationship, and I think in Yolanda's mind, she probably felt they were a lot closer, probably felt part of the family. So I think it made her, or did a great deal for her esteem and a great deal for her sort of self-worth when she thought she was part of that group, that family.
I think what develops almost as a big sister, little sister relationship, where I think Selena starts relying on Yolanda. She isn't around a lot of people outside of her family. And so she and Yolanda start becoming very, very good friends. And Selena, I think, begins confiding in her. And she then ultimately asked Yolanda to work for her for money. You know, she basically says, oh, you've done a great job with this fan club. Would you become my personal assistant? And Yolanda, I think this is a dream come true for her. And so she quits her nursing job and dedicates all of her time to being with Selena, helping Selena. And then it becomes even more expanded when Selena decides to open some clothing boutiques, which is a real passion for her. And she asked Yolanda to help manage these clothing stores. And so what happens over time is you have somebody who started out as a fan club volunteer, basically, and has become an integral part of Selena's life.
She had access to Selena's credit cards. She had the power to make contracts and make business deals. She had the power to run the boutiques and do whatever she needed to do with the employees or the merchandise at the boutiques. In fact, she just had pretty much everything. Yolanda Saldivar and Selena were almost inseparable. They would give each other gifts. Selena trusted her implicitly.
I think for Yolanda, she has finally achieved a dream of hers, which is to be needed by somebody who is special and powerful and a star. And I think that that gave Yolanda this sense of self-esteem. I think it filled a hole that she had in her. I would imagine there were times when she looked back and thought, wow, you know, here I was, 4 feet 9 inches tall, a little bit chubby, being bullied by all these classmates, you know, being left out, not having any friends. Look at me now. You know, I am one of the closest friends to one of the rising superstars in music. And I think she absolutely loved everything about it. I think if Yolanda had been 15, 16 years old, parents are going to into a room of a teenager and seeing a life-size cutout of Selena in the room and posters everywhere, they think, wow, you know, my daughter is really a fan, you know, a super fan. I think for a 30-something-year-old woman to have essentially a shrine to the person that she really is working for, I think it does speak to how central Selena was to, in some respects, her emotional well-being. I think it just reflects that this was her world. There would be no doubt walking into Yolanda's home that Selena was the most important person in her life.
Selena's father was very concerned about money being taken from the fan club.
He realized that something was happening. Money had been missing from the fan club. People weren't getting their stuff. He was getting all these complaints, but he didn't know exactly what was happening at that time.
Eventually, Selena's father realizes that Yolanda has taken quite a bit of money, upwards of $30,000. So he decides that he's going to call a meeting with the family and Yolanda and confront her with it.
When Abraham Quintanilla confronted her to her face, something's going on, people are complaining about that. Yolanda Saldivar always had an explanation. Oh, Mr. Quintanilla, they're trying to get more than what they paid for. Oh, Mr. Quintanilla, I did send them the picture. Oh, Mr. Quintanilla, they're just lying about that because they want more stuff. She always had an excuse for everything.
I find it shocking when anyone steals from somebody that trusts them, that cares for them, that believes in them, that becomes friends with them. That is shocking.
Even though Selena is loyal to Yolanda, she's not willing to ignore everything. I mean, she's somebody who is responsive to reason. I think she still cares about Yolanda at this point, for sure, but I think she starts realizing that Yolanda has made some mistakes. And so I think that while Selena probably still loved Yolanda, she was starting to not trust her. When Selena starts asking for those documents, I think perhaps the way Yolanda interpreted that is, does Selena care about me still? Is she still loyal to me? Or is she trying to appease me until she gets these documents? And then when she gets them, she's going to exit. She's going to fire me. She's going to, basically not be my friend anymore. And so she becomes very reluctant to give up those documents because I think for her, it's a way to hold on to Selena.
On March 30th, Selena Quintanilla drove over to the Days Inn to meet Yolanda Saldivar in her hotel room, ostensibly to get the records back.
As part of their discussions, Yolanda tells her something horrible happened when I was in Mexico on business. I was raped by 2 men. And Selena is just very supportive of her. She's distressed by this. The next morning, Yolanda calls Selena and says, I need to go to the hospital and get checked out.
Selena, being the nice person she was, went over there and took her to the hospital. When they returned back to the motel, both of them went inside the hotel room.
An argument began. Shortly after that, Selena was shot.
Yolanda Saldivar retreated into the hotel room, came out a minute later with a towel wrapped around the gun, and went into a red truck that was parked there.
As it turned out, there was a police unit just 2 or 3 blocks from the motel. That police officer arrived. As he's pulling into the driveway of the motel, Yolanda was attempting to exit the motel.
There was 2 uniformed policemen that tried to get her out of the car, tried to get her to surrender.
She refused to exit the vehicle, kept claiming she was going to shoot herself.
There was a real possibility that she was going to pull that trigger and end her own life.
She doesn't want to give up. She threatens suicide. She makes all kinds of accusations about different people and who's responsible for what.
And then the hostage negotiation team took over. After an hour or 2, she apparently was able to hear on the radio inside the truck that Selena was dead. She really lost it then and kept threatening to kill herself. The hostage negotiators kept trying to calm her down, to have her give herself up and not kill herself, which they finally accomplished after some 8 or 9 hours. And they took her immediately to the police department to be questioned.
Yolanda kept claiming she did not mean to do it, that it was an accident, it shouldn't have happened. From what we saw in the motel room, what we learned about missing money, it became apparent it was not an accident.
This lovely, beautiful, talented, up-and-coming star who everybody loved had been taken away at the age of 23. Nobody could understand that.
It has to be a devastating loss. The community took it as a loss. We lost a great person, a fantastic person, and that's just a tragedy to lose somebody like this.
50,000 people at least showed up to pay respects to her when she died. And I think the thirst from her fans for some justice and sometimes vengeance, I think was incredible.
The magnitude of this case was higher than any other case I had tried before. I mean, right after the killing, we had, a bunch of satellite trucks and people from everywhere, journalists from everywhere, interviewing us about this case. Remember that this was shortly after the O.J. Simpson case and the verdict that some people were quite dissatisfied with had just happened. So we felt like the spotlight was on us to do a good job.
The pressure is that when you have someone that iconic, then any mistake you make is going to be highlighted. Everybody's watching, so the pressure is immense.
The biggest challenge in the investigation was to prove that Yolanda Saldivar committed murder. Not that she shot Selena. Everybody was aware of that, but she committed murder, that it was not an accident.
In a homicide, you have to prove an intentional killing. It couldn't have been an accident. In this case, it was clear to me that it wasn't an accident because of what she had done before and after the killing.
From witnesses, we learned that there was an argument in the room and that they had seen Yolanda Saldivar step out of the room with a pistol still in her hand.
She follows Selena out the door, raises her gun hand out like this, and it seems like she's going to shoot Selena again. However, by this time, Selena has already gotten away. But she does say one last thing to Selena, the word. She calls her and then retreats into the hotel room. Did she call 911? Did she call the police? No. What she did was hide her gun, wrap it in a towel, and try to flee the scene. This is a person that's not acting as an accident happened. She's a nurse, for God's sake. She didn't even try to give first aid to Selena.
She knows how to save lives. In fact, if she wanted to save her life, she absolutely could have. Selena died from blood loss. Surely, as a nurse, one of the first things you know how to do is to stop blood loss.
Here's a person that then gets into the truck and tries to flee the scene. Does that sound like an accident to you?
It was very important that we learned that Selena had mentioned the name of the person that shot her. She was able to identify that individual.
Selena was the best witness. I mean, she named her right before she died as the person who had shot her.
After the shooting of Selena Quintanilla, the police, in doing their investigation of the crime scene and the murder itself, also did some more background into the finances and see what other things that might have been out of place with Yolanda Saldivar. The detective was able to find certain areas of financial improprieties in there, where, say, a radio station had been paid so much money, but Yolanda kept a cut of it. Somebody was supposed to get so much money, but Yolanda kept a cut of it. So there was a lot of discrepancies in the amount of thousands of dollars. Here she had access to money, power, stature, reputation. But when Selena fired her and Selena walked out that door, Yolanda Saldivar's life walked out that door, and she couldn't handle it.
Yolanda shot Selena because Selena was going to tell her dad something to the effect of, "You're taking money from us, you've been stealing money, we're going to call the police." Yolanda did not want to go to jail.
She began working for a private dermatology clinic, and that went well at the beginning, but ultimately her employer began noticing that some of the books were not exactly lining up.
The office manager had been on leave for several months, taking care of her sick mother. When she came back, she found that Yolanda Saldivar had been doing the books, in fact, had been embezzling from the company.
They did an investigation and found out that Yolanda had stolen over $9,000.
I think the doctor saw that as quite a betrayal.
When you turn on people that are your friends, that care for you, that have helped you out, that's just wrong.
The nurses come out and basically say, you know, we examined Yolanda. We don't see any physical evidence of any kind of sexual assault. I think it's really important to note that false rape allegations are extremely rare. When that happens, it's usually for a couple of different reasons. It's kind of a manipulative attempt to be seen as a victim. I certainly think in Yolanda's case, it was also a diversion. So this is going to take the focus off of all these other issues we have between us, and this is going to unite us in terms of me being a sexual assault victim and you being a friend who's supporting me during this time. Yolanda had really taken a big gamble by reporting this rape, and Selena felt incredibly betrayed and hurt by this.
Selena had been given Yolanda Saldivar the benefit of the doubt, but could no longer do so because she was telling too many stories. Selena knew she was going to fire her, and by this time, Yolanda Saldivar knew it too. She picks out the gun. She has to sign a declaration of intent to buy a handgun. She does that. 2 days later, she comes back and finishes paying off the gun and gets the gun.
I think that she was incredibly worried, anxious, distressed, and panicked at the thought of losing this relationship. And I think she thought it can go one of two ways, right? It can go where we repair this relationship, I somehow magically repair this and we're just back to where we were. Or our relationship ends and I am going to do something drastic. I am not going to allow Selena to walk away from me.
Yolanda Saldivar may not have been a physically imposing person, but when you have a .38 gun and you have hatred for somebody, bad things are going to happen.
At the police building, I met with Yolanda Saldivar. I asked her, Yolanda, it wasn't an accident. You shot her because you were mad. You shot her out of anger because you were about to get caught stealing money. And in Spanish, the term is fue de coraje. To me, that means it was because out of anger, out of rage. She put her head down, started to cry a bit, and nodded yes, and told me in Spanish, sí, señor, yes. I then stated to her, I remember this, Yolanda, that's very important. We need to get it in your statement. We need to put this down. She shook her head and says, nope, no, señor, it's not going in. She became aware if she put that down in writing, for sure she was going to get convicted of murder, of killing Selena, and end up in the penitentiary for a long time.
We knew it wasn't an accident. We had to prove in this case that Yolanda Saldivar intentionally tried to kill Selena Quintanilla. That was a thing that we had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
I think that there were people who absolutely were not only outraged, but counting the days until Yolanda went to trial. I heard her referred to back in the day as the most hated woman in America. I heard somebody say that because people were so angry.
It seemed to be at that time, shortly before the trial, the public here in Corpus Christi wanted Yolanda Saldivar to be convicted. They didn't care for her, they didn't like it. She had killed one of our hometown heroes.
Prosecution argued that Yolanda had systematically planned to murder Selena. And they talked about the gun, the fact that she had called her over that day and asked her to come alone, the fact that Selena was shot in the back, the fact that witnesses reported seeing Yolanda as Selena is leaving walk out the door with her gun raised again to Selena and calling her a
Despite her so-called love of Selena, the last thing she says to her best friend is, I mean, those are the keys that I harped on with the jury to show that this was an intentional killing and not an accident.
The defense's argument was that it was an accident, that she had intended to kill herself, and that she had a gun in her purse, and that when Selena came to see her and they were talking, she became very distraught and became so distraught that she picked up the gun and she put it to her head. And that Selena was trying to kind of wrestle the gun away from her or take it away from her, the gun accidentally goes off and shoots Selena.
We proved that the gun would not go off accidentally. We had a gun expert look at the gun and show that it would not go accidentally. Yolanda Saldivar stared stone-faced. When the evidence came in front of her, the witness came in front of her, she was impassive. After a very short time in deliberations, the jury came back and found her guilty as charged of first-degree murder. And the jury ended up giving her life in prison. When the judge imposed the sentence on her after the judgment of the jury, Yolanda Saldivar did not visibly react.
Yolanda never showed remorse. She never apologized, to use that word, for shooting Selena. It felt good to get a guilty verdict, to know that we had done the right thing, that we were correct in our investigation.
Selena's family reacted emotionally, but quietly. Here was a hollow victory. They had gotten the maximum punishment on this person who had taken their beloved daughter, sister, wife away from them. And it had to have been a good feeling, but it's hard to feel good about a sentence when you know your loved one will never come back.
I think Yolanda was an obsessed fan. I think it was her personality. I think that's just who she is. She wants to be in someone's life, even if that person doesn't want them in their life. And if she gets dismissed, she's going to kill him or kill herself.
We see somebody, I think, who started out as a super fan, who morphed into more of a personal relationship. And so I think by the time that she ends up killing Selena, it's not an obsessive fan killing her idol. It is a combination of, I think, a sense of betrayal in a real relationship and a disgruntled employee who feels like she has been wronged in spite of all the evidence suggesting that she's the one doing the wrong.
It amazes me that a nurse would even go to that form of violence. I mean, people are trained in the medical profession, like doctors or nurses, are trained to help people, not hurt them. And to kill somebody has got to be the worst thing imaginable for somebody with that loyalty or oath to the medical profession. it's got to be a big betrayal.
It's interesting because people that choose those noble sort of professions, whether it's nursing or being a priest, yeah, sometimes they're just a wolf in sheep's clothing. The natural assumption is you're a nurse, you want to help people, you want to care for people, you're a very nurturing person. But they are sometimes worse.
The loss of Selena to her family is immeasurable. Her family has the most precious thing taken away from them. The pain in her heart is indescribable.
To the people that know Selena, what has been lost is her smile, her courage, her kindness to the community. People miss that. To this day, they still enjoy her music.
In 1995, after she died, her family started a foundation. The mission of this foundation is to really help children and help them develop and be the person they're meant to be. And I love the fact that one of their lines is, to help children sing whatever song they're meant to sing.
I think Selena's legacy continues, and I think there's probably a lot of barriers that have been knocked down because of her existence.
She has not died in spirit from our culture. She's very much alive, I think, and that is a legacy and tribute to what she did when she was alive.
People still wonder how big Selena would have eventually been. She was on the cusp of superstardom. Everybody wonders what could have been if we had her music to enjoy, and what would have happened if she hadn't been tragically cut down in the prime of her life.